Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting chapter of Cliffhangers, the serial talk show. On today's episode, we're going to be going deep with the Undersea Kingdom, starring Ray Crash Corrigan. I'm your host, Kendall Fontenot, and with me, as always, is Patrick Bennett. How you doing, Patrick?
I'm doing great. How's it going?
It's going good, man. So apparently, SpongeBob is not the only person who lives at the bottom of the sea. He lives in a pineapple, I believe.
Yeah.
All the people in Undersea Kingdom live in a very cool world. What did you think about this serial?
Well, first, let's show the trailer, and then we'll come right back.
Okay.
We're down 2,500 feet. Good. Another 2,000 feet, I can stop the counteracting ray. We'll never make it. The submarine will be crushed.
Get hold of yourself, Joe. There's no danger.
Why, of course not. Well, you're all mad. If we go any deeper, the submarine will crush like the shell of an egg.
It's a deep-sea craft from the upper world, Your Majesty. Shall I destroy it?
Turn on the magnetic ray and bring them down into Atlantis.
All right, Corrigan. This is your last chance. Tell your friends to hand over that timing powder or I'm going to ram through those gates. Go ahead and ram. Ram the gate!
The volkite! We're trapped!
So, what did you think of the Undersea Kingdom, Patrick?
Well, to be honest with you, it's not one of my favorites. I enjoyed it, but it's too much like Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy it. I'm not saying I hated it or anything. It's just not one of my favorites. I mean, we've already had it. You know, it's just they put it underwater instead of on Mongo.
Yeah, it was almost a cookie cutter version of Flash Gordon. Even in the first chapter, whenever the announcer at the football game is talking about Crash Corrigan,
Right.
he's saying Crash Corrigan, and it might have just been the audio of the version that I have, but it sounds like he's saying Flash Gordon.
Yeah, his name might as well have been Flash Gordigan. They just stole everything from Flash Gordon. I mean, even the mean character, the guy kind of looked like mean.
Yeah, I mean, he had the mean looking villain.
Bellard. I mean, even the scientist was like Zarkov. They even brainwashed him like they did on Mongo.
They had all the cool, like the Juggernaut tank, and what was it?
Which we saw the Juggernaut tank again on the moon in Radar Men from the Moon.
That's right. They put a new paint job on it.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Now, but yeah, I mean, and you had the Volkites, you had the They were probably my favorite part of the movie, the serial, even though they didn't necessarily do a whole lot. The Volkites reminded me a lot of the Cybermen from Doctor Who. Now, I'm not talking about the new version, the Cybus Industry Cybermen from the newer version of Doctor Who. I'm talking the old school Mondas Cybermen. If you're a fan of Doctor Who, you know who I'm talking about. I don't have to go into any kind of description of Mondas or anything like that. But they reminded me of the old Mondas Cybermen. I enjoyed this serial, but like you said, it was too much like Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Teen Wolf and Teen Wolf 2. It's the exact same story. They just put it in different places, different situations. What I liked about this serial was the fact that the Undersea Kingdom had horses and a desert and sunlight and air. I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, that wasn't a new concept back then. I mean, you look at Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Right.
I mean, that wasn't a new concept, but it's a neat concept. I thought it was kind of funny how the two sides in the war in the Undersea Kingdom of Atlantis, the bad guys, and I'm going to get to the story itself in a minute. I'll explain the plot here in a minute. But the bad guys were the black robes, and the good guys were the white robes.
Sure.
The guys in the black robes had awesome technology. They had all kinds of stuff. And the good guys, the white robes, they had spears and catapults and stuff like that. Now, I mean, the black robes had a literal army of robots called Volkites, and then they had the tanks, and then it's not the Sky Chariot. What was the Vol something? I can't remember what they called that. The vol planes.
Right.
They would fly around then.
Those were cool.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of neat things in this serial.
Yeah.
But it's just, it was like been there, done that for a
Yeah,
lot of.
no, I know exactly what you mean by that.
For those of you who haven't watched the serial, what's going on is Ray Crash Corrigan, who sounds a lot like Flash Gordon. He is a multi-sport star, which sounds exactly like Flash Gordon, and he's in Annapolis. He's in the Navy, and he goes with Professor Billy's father, Professor Norton. He goes with Professor Norton to find out what's causing these earthquakes.
Yeah.
Professor Norton has developed a tool.
Kind of like Flash Gordon.
Yeah, can detect earthquakes and stop them. And his gun is his tool, not his gun. His tool is triggered by Unga Khan in Atlantis. Unga Khan has a weapon. I can't remember I've got them all written down here because he's got so many weapons. The disintegrator, that's what it was called. Unga Khan had the disintegrator to create earthquakes, and his plan was to first take over Atlantis and then lift his tower out of the ocean and take over the world. And whenever Professor Norton and Crash and Billy and
Lois?
Diana Compton, the news reporter, go down there to see what's going on. They get pulled in by a magnetic ray into the Undersea Kingdom of Atlantis, and they find themselves caught in a war between the white robes and the black robes. And Professor Norton is captured by Unga Khan, and he is turned into basically a zombie version. He does anything that Unga Khan wants him to do. And I thought it was pretty neat. Whenever Professor Norton would do something evil, he would get this wicked smile on his face before he did it. And basically, what ends up happening? Crash joins the white robes. He saves the king, I believe. No, he gets imprisoned by him, and then he becomes their champion, and they give him full control of the army. I thought that was kind of funny. He's only down there for a few minutes, and he goes from prisoner to the leader of their army after one big fight, and he leads those guys against the black robes. And Billy is the annoying little sidekick, the kid, and he gets into a lot of trouble. and that's pretty much it. They just battle. Of course, the Unga Khan wants Professor Norton to build some rockets to lift his tower out of the sea, and they do succeed in doing that. And there is a brief war on the surface of the ocean, but toward the end of the serial in the last few chapters. But it's a fun serial. If you've never seen Flash Gordon, you'll probably like this one a whole lot more. If you've seen Flash Gordon, then you pretty much know what you're getting into. And it's funny because Republic Pictures almost unanimously is considered the best serial company as far as production go. But in this case, they were trying to play catch up with the Flash Gordon serial. And that was, but it's also this was the second serial that Republic made. This was one of their first serials, but they played catch up. They caught up, obviously, and then they dominated from then on. But this serial, if for no other reason, it's cool to see it in that light, in that Republic was playing catch up, trying to best the competition.
Let's talk about the star, Crash Corrigan.
Yep.
I know I was familiar with him before I've watched the serial. I've seen him in movies. I really liked him as a gorilla man. I mean, he had his own gorilla costumes, and he would play in movies and serials and stuff. And
that's kind of how he got his name.
He was in Flash Gordon, the serial. He played
Really?
that horned gorilla creature that Flash had to fight. That was Crash Corrigan. But he was in some other. He was in one of the Tarzan. I believe it was Tarzan and his mate. He played a gorilla in that. But he was known as a Hollywood gorilla man. But he was a stunt man. He played also in a lot of westerns. And I mean, he used his own name in this one, which I guess because of the whole Flash Gordon thing, it sounded a lot like him.
Yeah.
But I thought he was pretty cool. I enjoyed him.
What I found interesting about him, doing some digging, he purchased some property.
Corriganville, yeah.
Corriganville, and that's where they shot like the Lone Ranger, the TV series. The Lone Ranger, location shots were done for that.
Right.
Star Trek was shot there. Locations,
all those cool looking mountains, hills and stuff.
And that eventually became Bob Hope bought it a few years later. You guys don't know who Bob Hope is? Just Google Bob Hope.
American icon.
Oh man, he's hilarious. He's great. And not only was he a good actor and a comedian, but he was a philanthropist. I mean, he did a lot of charity work. But he turned Corriganville or Corrigantown into, it was Corriganville. He turned it into Hopetown. And now it's a park. It's a reserve park.
No, they had like a western town set and all that when Corrigan had it, but all that burned down in the 70s.
Yeah, I saw some pictures of it when I was researching, and there are some foundations for some of the buildings that are still out there. They're all overgrown, but you can still see them if you go out there. I thought that was really cool, though, about Crash Corrigan.
Yeah. I'd like to take a trip and see the park, see some of those hills and stuff.
Oh, yeah, that would be so cool to see all that. It would, man. And then the other actors in this series, let's see. We had Lois Wilde. This was her first serial. She played Diana Compton. She was the reporter. Monte Blue. He was Unga Khan. He played the leader of the Black Robes. He was a stuntman and an extra in Birth of a Nation, which came out in 1915. If you have not seen Birth of a Nation, it's not an easy film to watch. I think it has been banned in a number of places. I don't think the entire United States is banned, but it's got some very touchy material. It's got the Ku Klux Klan and all kinds of other stuff. But historically, I think people should watch it. It's tough to watch with people's mindsets these days, but I highly recommend watching it, if for no other reason, just for its historical significance. But Monte Blue.
That's a cool name, Monte Blue.
Yeah. He started out as, like I said, he was an extra and a stuntman for Birth of a Nation. and he did stunt and extra work for years until he started getting starring roles, and he became like a romantic lead in a ton of silent movies. And then once talkies started popping up, a lot of those silent film stars faded away because they didn't know how to act in a talkie. Most of those people grew up, doing vaudeville or theater or whatever. And so that's why you had, if you look at old silent films, they have a lot of exaggerated emotions. Is to get that emotion across, like if on stage, that's why they'd use so much makeup. To get that emotion across, they would exaggerate it. And he's one of the few stars who actually made a transition into talkies. And he went on, he had a long career. And he never did achieve the level of stardom that he had as a silent film actor, but he worked continuously, and I thought that was pretty neat. But then we got the comic relief in here, Briny Deep and Salty, and Smiley Burnett. It was Smiley Burnett and Frankie Marvin. Smiley Burnett, I didn't even realize what this guy did, but he appeared in a ton of westerns with Roy Rogers, Gene Autry.
Walking with my dad, with Gene Autry and Roy Rogers and all those movies.
He was a singing cowboy with them. He wrote over 400 songs, and he is in the Cowboy Hall of Fame in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And he is in the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame. And he was also on Petticoat Junction. And he also invented and patented a device called Cinevision Talkies. And what that was basically, you remember those old sets you could get when you were young, and it would come with a 45 record, and it was a little book.
Yeah.
Later versions came with a cassette tape. Right. Well, it was similar to that. It was you would get an album, a vinyl album that would play 4 of his songs, and the setup came with 15 slides from whatever production it was, whatever movie, whatever, and you could watch them at your house. You'd go through the slides with the projector, and even the album cover opened up, and it was white, and you could take a flashlight if you didn't have a projector. Take the flashlight and hold the slides to it.
Yeah.
To look at them all. I mean, this guy, he owned the Checkered Shirt restaurant chain. There's still 2 of them in existence. One's in California. I can't remember where the other one is. And then he appeared on the Louisiana Hayride, Grand Ole Opry, tons of other stuff. And I mean, you would think for just the small role he had in this movie, he wouldn't have been much. But he managed himself, and he got as much money as he could. So, I mean, Smiley did really well for himself. I thought that was pretty cool. And then, of course, the elephant in the room, the guy we got to talk about, or at least I got to talk about, because he is my all-time favorite Universal monster, is Lon Chaney Jr.
Yeah.
Lon Chaney Jr. is in this film. He's one of Unga Khan's men. It's Hakur, I think is how you say it. And it's not a very big role, but it is a significant role. He does have he does have quite a few lines in the serial. He gets captured by Crash Corrigan a few times, and I mean he's the Wolfman. If you don't know who the Wolfman is, I'm talking the 1941 Wolfman. If you don't know who the Wolfman is, then you don't know anything about horror. You've got to have that foundation with the old Universal movies. And I love Lon Chaney Jr. He's one of my favorite actors. He also played Frankenstein. He played Alucard, the son of Dracula. And then he played Karras. He played the Mummy in 3 of the Mummy sequels, all the sequels that didn't feature Tom Tyler. You had the original one with Karloff, and then you had Tom Tyler as Karras in the first sequel. And then the 3 that followed, it was Lon Chaney Jr. in all 3 of those. And I mean, this was early on in his career as far as Undersea Kingdom goes. And I thought he did a really good job. He obviously went on to bigger and better things. But I just thought it's kind of neat to find actors that at least for me, it's cool to see actors that I love in some of their early roles, or even in uncredited roles.
Yeah.
You know, he received credit in this one, but I just think it's neat to see how they got their start. So,
Hey, let's talk about the child actor.
yeah,
What was his name?
Lee Van
Billy Norton, is that his name?
Billy Norton, Lee Van Atta.
You know, usually I can't stand child actors in movies. Like remember Wesley Crusher in Star Trek, The Next Generation. But this one, I think it worked, man. And I think the reason it worked is because the kid wasn't always getting into trouble. He actually knew how to do stuff.
Yeah, he helped out a lot.
He could pilot that submarine. He rescued Crash Corrigan and the girl a couple times. So it wasn't that bad. I actually kind of liked him.
He kind of got on my nerves. I'm not gonna lie. I did like the one scene whenever they capture Hakor, and he hides in the hay. He says, I'm going to watch him crash. You go do whatever Crash had to do in that particular chapter. He says, I'll stay here and watch this guy. And he crawls into the hay, and he's got the gun sticking out of the hay at Hakor. I did enjoy that. I can see where you're going, though. He wasn't as annoying as a lot of child characters are concerned because, like you said, he could do things. He wasn't just trouble.
It seems like on every one of those movies and serials and that back then that had a kid in it, the kid always stows away in a trunk or, you know, in something to hide and gets taken along on the adventure. And
Yeah.
usually they're like just super annoying, but I didn't mind this one as much.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he was good. Getting to the actual Undersea Kingdom. Let's talk about the Undersea Kingdom itself. We had mentioned earlier they have horses down there
And chariots.
and fire, and they have robots.
The robots are pretty cool. I liked them.
And they have sky. Yeah, the Volkites. I like the Volkites. They different versions of those robots would appear in other serials.
Yeah.
And they even in Captain Proton and the Adventures of Captain Proton on Star Trek Voyager,
Right.
which I know I talk about a lot, but they even have one of those kind of awkward giant robots.
Yeah, we kind of refer to them as water heater robots because they're like a big cylinder. And they usually got those claw clamp hands.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they're slower than Jason Voorhees, but they still catch their victims like he does.
I'll tell you one thing I didn't understand about the robots. Are they hollow? Because Crash and them wore them like costumes, you know?
Yeah.
Did they gut out all the electronics and stuff? I didn't understand that.
And you know, they didn't have they weren't strictly used for war. They had some of them that did different things, like the was it the giant magnet they would activate, and they would cut to that same scene of that one Volkite pushing that lever to activate it. But yeah, I enjoyed the Volkites. I just thought it's a neat serial. You know, overall, I mean, I loved all the different weapons that the Black Robes had.
Yeah.
To me, that was one of the coolest parts. I did enjoy the flying sequence where Crash and Billy, and I think it was the professor that's with them, Billy's father, when they're making their escape in one of the sky chariots.
Yeah.
I thought that was done really well too, man. I enjoyed this serial a lot. And as far as the stunts are concerned, Tom Steele was in here, and I know you love Tom Steele, but there's also George the Norman, and he appeared in The Lone Ranger. He was the Lone Ranger in certain stunts, and he was also in Bride of Frankenstein, among others. He did a lot of stunts, and then there was also Ted Mapes, and another significant stuntman we should mention is Eddie Parker. He was Lewis Wilson's stunt double in the first Batman serial. And I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, he had to fight with a cape, slapping him in the face and all kinds of other stuff. But those are the stunt guys in this serial. But did you have a favorite weapon? I mean, my favorite was probably the Volkites. But I mean, did you have any kind of favorite weapon in this serial?
Just the robots. But when you mention weapons, there's a lot of swords, and you could tell that they were made out of wood.
Yeah.
I remember one scene where all these guys draw their swords at the same time, and one guy had his backwards. Instead of the curve, it was facing the other way, and he kind of like spun it around real quick.
I didn't catch that.
It stood out like a sore thumb, you know. I thought it was hilarious.
I'll have to go back and look for that. I didn't catch that one. Do you think that the Undersea Kingdom had any influence on characters like Aquaman or Namor, you know, the Submariner, any of those guys?
Man. I have no idea.
I don't know. I mean, I like Aquaman, and he's not my favorite superhero, but and I catch a lot of flack for liking him because I liked him before Jason Momoa.
Yeah.
Before Momoa made him the cool guy. I've got one of them up there. I've got a bunch more, but my young son gives me a lot of grief over Aquaman. But I enjoy the character.
I used to watch
enjoy him more
Aquaman
than
cartoon when I was a kid.
Yeah, I used to watch Aquaman when I was a kid too, and then he was on Super Friends.
Yeah.
And the comic books, I enjoyed him. The only one I didn't care for is when he loses his hand to the piranha.
Yeah, had a
give him
hook.
that hook. They lost me.
That was dumb.
They lost me there. But when Jeff Johns took over the character with the New 52 DC Comics, that's when they won me back with Aquaman. I enjoyed Jeff Johns' run with Aquaman, and I've enjoyed him ever since. I've enjoyed the character. I've gotten back into the character ever since. But yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of sea in the Undersea Kingdom. You know, but it didn't bother me. That didn't bother me that they went underwater. It would have been cool to see how a serial made way back when would deal with people living underwater in actual water.
I really like their submarine.
Yeah.
And I like the way that when they were off of it, they would hide it. They had that remote control that would submerge it.
Yep.
That reminded me of Battlestar Galactica, Galactica 1980, when the next season of it. Mm-hmm. They would land their ships on modern day Earth, and when they were leaving, they had a remote that would turn them invisible. It kind of reminded me of that scene with them submerging the submarine. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I enjoyed Undersea Kingdom. Again, if you haven't seen Flash Gordon, you'll probably like it more than I did, because I prefer the Crash. I messed up there. I prefer the Flash Gordon serials to the Undersea Kingdom. Nothing against Crash Corrigan or anybody else in the serial, but yeah, Flash Gordon's got him beat. It's one of the few times Republic got beat out by another company.
Now, I could be totally wrong on this, but it seems like I remember hearing or reading or something that Crash Corrigan was broke towards the end of his life. Did you read anything about that? Like he was almost penniless, and he was an alcoholic and stuff. I know he was friends with Ed Wood, that horrible director and stuff. And yeah. I know that I think he was trying to get work with Ed Wood, and Ed Wood turned him down.
Yeah, that's
I don't
bad.
know if that was in that Ed Wood movie, or if I read that, or I could be totally wrong. I could be thinking about somebody else. But if you know anything about it, put it in the comments. And if I read something about it after this, I'll comment on it also.
And it definitely would not surprise me if he ended up penniless, because quite a few of those guys did. The stars ended up, and the extras as well. But a lot of those stars did end up penniless. And if we ever talk about Bela Lugosi on an episode, there's a story there. I have to do a little research. I don't want to say it out loud, but something that happened with Bela Lugosi's family actually helped save a lot of those actors who lost money. But like whenever people would use their likeness and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I gave a talk on Bela Lugosi earlier this year. I was actually supposed to give it at 2 conventions, and obviously they got canceled because of COVID-19. And I found out some really interesting stuff about him as a person. And then after, he passed away, some problems that his family ran into. And if we talk about Lugosi, I'll definitely bring that up.
Now, he was good friends with Ed Wood also.
Yeah. Ed Wood was basically his only source of income for a while there. Lugosi had a lot of money problems. He made a lot of money, but he spent more than he made.
It wasn't his last film, Plan 9 from Outer Space, directed by Ed Wood?
That one was his last one. There might have been another one that used footage of him. If I remember correctly, there's another film that came out after Plan 9.
Because I think he died during the filming of Plan
footage.
9 because they had to replace him with some other actor that covered his face.
Yeah, and they used some stock footage of him or whatever in another film. But the one that he officially acted in, I want to say, was Plan 9 from Outer Space. Yeah, Lugosi's a cool dude. So if we do get to talk to him about him, I mean, we're not going to talk to him unless you want to have a seance. Yeah, I'll have to bring that up. I'll make some notes to myself to talk more about Lugosi, to study up on. But yeah, Undersea Kingdom in 1966, they released a shortened version, which they did a lot with a lot of serials in the 60s. They edited a lot of versions together. They whittled them down to 100-minute movies, basically.
Right.
I've never seen it. It's called Charade of Atlantis. I've never seen it. I've only seen the serial, so I don't know what got cut out. But if it's only 100 minutes
thing about
long,
it, you lose so much when you watch those feature film versions.
Yeah.
Because it's basically you're seeing half of the serial.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd rather watch the serial first,
Yeah. There's quite a few of them. I mean, it's a good way if you want to watch a serial and don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
To sit through 4 hours of it, then knock yourself out. Watch the
you miss
watch
all the cliffhangers and wondering what the resolution is going to be.
Yeah, you miss out on a lot of that stuff. But yeah, I definitely recommend watching the serial more than I do watching the movie. Watch it after you've seen the serial. Yeah. That's what I would say. And then you can see, wow, they really did cut way too much out of the movie. So you got anything to say? I want to say this. Professor Norton, the actor that played him, I know we said Monte Blue was a cool name, but C. Montague Shaw was Professor Norton. And that sounds like a British spy. I think we could make some movies with a spy named C. Montague Shaw. That's a cool
That
name.
reminds me of those sea monkeys.
Sea monkeys?
Yeah.
Well, Undersea Kingdom, that would fit in there, man. Because sea monkeys are brine shrimp, aren't they?
Right.
Yeah, and you had Briny Deep, one of Smiley's characters. Yeah, Smiley's character was Briny Deep. Briny Deep and salty, which is essentially the same exact thing, because Briny Deep means salty water.
Yeah.
And you know that the actor that played Billy also played Junior in Dick Tracy.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Same kid. Yep. And he had a short career. He only acted from like 1936 to 1939. He didn't have a very long career at all. I didn't research enough up on him to find out what he did after that. I do know he attended conventions until he passed away. He passed away, I want to say, around 2010 or something like that.
Yeah, there's very few of those serial actors left. Probably less than a handful, just 2 or 3 here and there.
I don't think any of the major stars are still alive.
Except for that other Lois Lane.
Oh,
Phyllis.
she
Not
she was
Phyllis.
from the TV series though.
Yeah. But
Noelle
she,
Neal
serial,
placed her.
I'm saying is she was in serials.
Oh, she was in serials.
Yeah. She was in Panther Girl, The Congo. and,
Okay.
she made a few more.
So you got anything more to say about Undersea Kingdom?
No.
Basically, you can sum it up like this. If you know the Flash Gordon story, you know the Crash Corrigan story. Just put Flash Gordon in the water.
Yep. Flash Gordon in the water. You know what that
Right.
reminds me of? Star Trek Underwater was Sequest. Remember that show?
Sequence SV. Yep.
Yep. So this is the same thing. Flash Gordon underwater.
Yep.
All
Exactly.
right. Well, I guess we'll see you next week, next Monday. And
Sounds like a plan.
enjoy your week.
All right, you too, Patrick. Thank you guys for joining us for today's episode of Cliffhangers, the serial talk show. I hope that you learned a few things about Undersea Kingdom or Ray Crash Corrigan or any of the other actors that we mentioned. If you guys have any comments, let us know in the comments section. And as always, we'll see you next week for another exciting chapter. Thanks. Have a good one, Patrick.
You too, man.